Break out the goosebumps alert sign. I'm excited about this one. I just got back from the beach. I'm super tan now. I'm not. I'm the whitest person you'll ever meet. However, I'm excited about today's topic because this morning I did a critique that reminded me of this thing that I do when I produce songs, and it's so much fun. It never gets old for me. I want to share it with you today. It's called the Verse 2 Rule, and I'm going to talk about how it can transform your productions, make them a lot more fun, and it's really simple to implement. So stick with me because I'm going to show you exactly how I do this on an actual song so you can hear it for yourself. But first, if you don't have my production checklist, this is like the ultimate recording checklist. It looks like this. It's a single page. Kind of a cheat sheet to give you ideas for when you're stuck in recording. What we're going to talk about today really applies to this, so grab your copy, go to homestudiocorner.com/checklist to get your free copy. Print it out, keep it in your studio space to remind you, to help you get unstuck when you get stuck, because we all get stuck. It's nice to get unstuck. So, what is the Verse 2 rule? Well, let me start off with a hypothetical. Let's say you go to your favorite band's concert. They come and play your town. You're so excited. You show up. You're there early, you get a good spot, you're right dead center, you can hear everything and see everyone perfectly. The band comes out, and they proceed to play your favorite song right out of the gate. And you are just through the roof excited. This is going to be the best show ever. Then they go to play the next song, and they repeat the song. That's weird. You think, okay, fine, it's my favorite song, I still enjoyed it. Then song 3 comes around. They repeat the song again. They proceed to play for 90 minutes the same song over and over. Are you happy about this? Of course not. Does it get a little boring? Yeah. Granted, if it's your favorite band and favorite song, you might love it. But for the most of us, we would say, that's boring, that's weird, stop doing that. Well, the problem is, a lot of people do the same thing in their productions. No, they're not playing the same song over and over, but their songs, when they produce a song from start to finish, the last third of the song sounds almost identical to the first third of the song. The song is kind of the same from start to finish. That gets boring for the listener. Even if they love you, even if they would pay good money to hear you play your song, they don't want to hear the same thing over and over and over again. And it's the same when it comes to production. So this has become what I call the Verse 2 rule. And I know, cue the comments of, there are no rules in recording. Okay, whatever. This is a rule that I made for myself. You can make it for yourself if you want. You can call it a suggestion if that helps you sleep at night. But this is a rule that I follow, and it helps me keep things interesting and engaging in my productions. And it goes simply like this. I want verse 2 to sound different from verse 1. That's it. Now, I extrapolate that out to say, I also want chorus 2 to sound different from chorus 1. I want verse 3, if there's a verse 3, to sound different from verse 2. I want the final chorus, chorus 3, to be different from chorus 2, which was different from chorus 1. And I want the bridge to be different from everything if there's a bridge. Now, you may think, oh, Joe, that's so formulaic. I'm an artist. I don't like formulas. Well, it's a formula in the sense that it's a framework to use, but you get to decide how you're going to make those changes as you go along. There's an interview Rick Beato did with Sting, and he says if he's not surprised I forget what he says, like 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 12 seconds in your music, his brain kind of switches off and he moves on to something else. If Sting feels that way, there might be something to that. That's kind of what this is. It's this idea of let's keep things interesting and surprising for the listener from start to finish. Does this mean we get gimmicky and we add a bunch of crap to our songs that doesn't sound good? No. But it does mean we think more strategically about how we produce things. I'll give you an example. I had a batch of critiques to do this morning, just got back from vacation, and one of them was a cool song, well produced, like all the parts sounded cool. The only problem was it was a pretty long song, so it was like over 5 minutes, and it had 3 basic sections to it. There was a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, and like a little turnaround, interlude. And then it would repeat that process 3 different times. So 3 different verses, 3 different pre-choruses, 3 different choruses. And you could not tell the difference from the first section to any of the other sections. I could just hit play and click in the different sections, and they all instrumentally sounded exactly the same. Exactly the same guitar parts, exactly the same bass part, drum part. The only thing that changed was the lyric of the vocal, but everything else was exactly the same. And so, intuitively, when it came to verse 3, I was internally feeling bored. Not because I'm elitist, not because I have ADHD, not because we have to shock our way to get people's attention, but because we are wired for story. We are wired to listen to someone talk, and if they start telling a story, we kind of lean in because we want to hear how that story is going to go. Music is the same way. I need your music to tell me a story. Not literally, although it can, but I need the music to take me on an adventure. I want to end up somewhere unexpected by the end of your song than when I started. That doesn't mean you got to have 8 key changes and throw in a bunch of weird stuff. It can be musical, but it can also follow this rule where you introduce new things as you go. You make it different from one section to the next continuously throughout the song, so you keep me on my toes about, what's this next section going to be? I'm anticipating a change, and then I'm surprised at what that change is. This doesn't mean you're just constantly adding things as you go. It could be that you start off big, then you take something away for the verse. Then you add one thing back in for the chorus. Then you add a second thing for the second verse. Then another thing for the third verse. Then you pull it all back for the bridge. You can do it. There's an infinite variety of things you can do here. The good news is you get to make all of these decisions. But if you're not thinking in terms of the flow of the song, the flow of the energy, then you are probably falling into this trap of having well-recorded songs that are just kind of boring, where everybody starts playing on the downbeat and they all play all the way through the song, and that's it. So it's technically like recorded and mixed well, but it's just boring. This verse 2 rule prevents that from happening. So what I want to do is dive into one of my songs, how I produced it, and to show you where this rule applied throughout that song from start to finish. It's one of my favorite songs. I'd love for you to come check it out with me. By the way, if you're liking this, are you subscribed? If not, real quick, do the thing. It's really helpful. Okay, so let's jump into Studio One. This is my song, Fighter. It is by far my most popular song that I've released. And I want to kind of take you on a tour of the song to introduce this concept. And the concept is the verse 2 rule, which is just bigger picture, regularly changing things up from a production standpoint to keep it interesting and engaging. So I'm going to start and stop the recording a lot just so you can to talk you through what's happening. So the song begins with some background vocals and some guitars. And then here comes verse 1. Verse 1, I even pull back from there. So I take the electric guitars away. I take the background vocals away. So now we're down to just one acoustic guitar and this little kind of beatbox sort of a loop thing that I made. And then, this is the beatbox loop here. Super inspired. And then this is Tim, my drummer, just played the sticks on the side of his kit. We picked it up with the room mic and recorded it twice, doubled it, panned them left and right, so it sounds like this. Cool rhythmic thing. That's all that's happening for verse 1. Why did we do that? Because it gives us all kinds of room to grow.
I don't want to look, I don't want to see what's under the hood.
And we're about to go into verse 2, which comes straight out of verse 1, and we change things up a lot, which makes it really fun.
And I can't be, but something's there, and I act like I don't care.
So this is an example of a verse and then another verse right after each other. You could call this a long verse 1 if you want, but I didn't want the whole thing to be this. But right about here in the song, you were starting to probably be a little bored with what's happening. Let's introduce something new. So we introduced a bunch. We brought in drums, bass, and electric guitars to keep us interested and to kind of stave off the boredom until the chorus. So it goes from this.
Can't be, but something's there.
Okay, Simple enough, right? We started off soft and then we added something in. Well, what changes at the chorus? How do we make the chorus bigger than the verse? That's one of the rules. That's one of the kind of the sub corollaries of the verse 2 rule is obviously the chorus needs to be different from the verse. How do we achieve that? Well, for one thing, the vocal goes up higher in melody. Second thing, we bring in all these background vocals that we heard on the intro. And third, the electric guitars get a little more aggressive. So that sounds like this.
If life is one big disappointment, then maybe I'm doing this thing right. But if this all points to something bigger, and I'll get back up and fight. I'll get back up and fight.
Okay, we're coming out of the verse. We're coming out of the chorus, and this goes right into verse 3. I love doing this. You can call it verse 2 or verse 3, where the chorus ends and you go right into it. There's no interlude. There's no turnaround. There's no 4 bars of chord progression. It just goes right into it. That's one thing you can do to keep things surprising. You say, oh, that was a nice chorus. Oh, we're in the verse. Nice. Way to go. Now, we're in technically verse 3. How are we going to make that different from the previous verse? It looks pretty similar. The main difference is that we've entered the verse right at the end of the chorus, so it's kind of jarring in a cool way. Otherwise, it's fairly similar, and that's a point that I want to make. I call this the verse 2 rule, but it's not a hard and fast rule that you must follow, right? If one section of your song sounds very similar to a previous section, it's not like you have to give up and quit because you let old Joe Gilder down. It's just a suggestion. So sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you either don't think about it or you're just happy with the way the song sounds and the 2 sections sound similar. That's fine. It's more of a thought process, a mindset of being aware of if there's too much sameness happening for too long in a song, you need to develop almost an allergy to that so that you realize, oh, I'm getting a little bored here. What can we do to change that up? So here, the main thing was having the verse come in right out of the chorus. The only other real difference is this electric guitar 2 plays this cute little melody thing going into the chorus that wasn't there before. And the drums are a little more aggressive in this verse than they were in verse 2. So verse 2 sounded like this. In verse 3, a little more aggressive.
Left me bleeding on the ground, and when no one was around, oh, they laughed at me. But if life is...
The other big difference is that this verse is only by itself. It's only 8 bars, whereas the first verse was really 16 bars, or it was 2 verses, verse, then a chorus. Now we're going just 1 verse into a chorus. That's also different. We haven't heard this verse happen in such a short amount of time yet in the song, so that alone makes it different. We heard it here with just guitar and loop. Then we heard it with drums and bass and electric guitars. Then we heard it again, same thing that we heard before, but we're only hearing it once, and then it goes right back into the chorus. Now, this chorus, is it any different from chorus 1? Let's take a look. Drums look the same, the loop is the same, guitars are seemingly the same. Let's see if there's anything different sonically happening.
But if life is one big disappointment.
One thing stands out to me. The electric guitar, kind of the lead guitar part. I played essentially the same part as the first chorus, but I played it up an octave. So for chorus 1, I played this. And then for chorus 2, I played it this way. That's really the only difference. So when I say make it different from the previous one, it doesn't have to be a massive difference like it was going from verse 1 to verse 2 where the whole band came in. That can be cool, but it can be something as simple as we added a tambourine for the second chorus that wasn't there in the first chorus. Or in this instance, the lead guitar part played a different part up an octave, so higher typically means more energy, so this second chorus stands alone. We can go back and jump between them, and we know this is the second chorus because that guitar is a lot higher than the one before.
Life is one big disappointment. Well, then maybe I'm doing this thing right. But if this all points to something bigger, can I get back up and fight? Get back up and fight.
Now, for the end of this chorus, we decided to repeat that last line, I'll get back up and fight, get back up and fight. So that makes this chorus a little longer than the first chorus. That's another small difference. Then we go into the bridge. Bridge, completely different. Drums go to a halftime feel, the chord progression changes, and we go just real ambient with the guitar parts, and we introduce a pad part that's just real ambient and ethereal. So this bridge, a bridge is just naturally, typically different from everything else in the song, so it's an easy way to break things up if it makes sense for the song. Then coming out of the bridge, this is probably my favorite part. The final chorus of the song, for me, is where, for a song like this at least, is where you kind of pull out all the stops. So you can look visually at this and see that chorus 3 looks visually different from chorus 2 and chorus 1. 1 and 2 look pretty similar. We already talked about the differences there. Chorus 3 adds in another pair of electric guitars. This synth that came in for the bridge continues through the end of the chorus. And there are also all these purple tracks down here, which are background vocal tracks that come in. They're echoing something that I sang during the bridge. So the bridge introduces a harmony, and it does this.
And I never was much of a fighter.
So that just repeats over and over for the bridge. That's just the bridge itself. And then during this final chorus, we've got these cute little echo parts that are basically echoing what I just sang in the bridge over the final chorus. Sounds like this.
And I never was much of a fighter, much of a fighter.
Slightly different notes because that fits the chord progression better. But this, in addition to these like over-the-top, aggressive, angry guitars, oops, I just did something I shouldn't have done, there we go, are what make this final chorus so push it kind of over the top. Fun story behind these guitars, by the way. We were in the studio, I was playing this guitar, and I was trying to come up with something. I think I was just trying to play one of the regular, just the electric guitar 2 part, I think, just the lead part. And I kept messing it up. And so at one point, the song's still playing, and I just go, "Ugh!" And I kind of just bang on the guitar a couple times. My drummer buddy in the back of the room looks up from his phone. He's playing a game on his phone and said, "Hey, what was that?" And I said, "Oh, I just messed it up." He goes, "No, do that." And so this part where I'm just wailing away playing 2 notes at a time came because I made a mistake, got angry, smacked the guitar a few times. It sounded kind of like that, and he said, "Do it." So we just created 2 new tracks, hit record, and I just played. Didn't even know what I was going to play exactly. There are some mistakes in there, but in the kind of grand scheme of that final chorus, it just adds this kind of anger to it that's really cool and fit the song perfectly. So I want to play for kind of the outro music of this video. I want to play from the bridge all the way through the end of the chorus so you can hear this final level of adding things to keep things interesting and engaging. So hopefully this has given you some ideas. You don't have to copy any of these specific ideas, but the concept behind them of adding things as you go, taking things away, bringing them back in is so much fun. It's my favorite part of producing music because it's where you get to like really hone your craft, really shape the song to be powerful and impactful. And by the way, these are not just tools for music producers. These are tools for musicians and live bands as well. When you learn how to produce well, it makes you better at performing live. If it's just me and a guitar, I perform better a song that I've produced already because I know when to pull back, when to add in energy, when to play lightly, when to play hard, when to fingerstyle, when to yell really loud. All those dynamic feel elements Those come in as a result of doing this and becoming really intuitive with the flow of a song. And then in a band, it's even better because we can have discussions about, all right, let's start off with just drums and bass, then guitars come in on the chorus, and then drop back to just drums and bass and one guitar for the verse, and then both guitars and keys come in at the chorus. We can have those conversations, and it makes a lot of sense, and we just start to intuitively know what we want the song to sound like. This is a production thing. This is a musicality thing that makes its way into the studio, but also oozes out into everywhere that you hear and play music. After this bridge and chorus plays, if there's another video you want to watch, I've got a recent one on how to make your vocals sound professional that a lot of people are liking. Go check that out. Thanks for watching. See ya.
And I never was much of a fighter. 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 Back up and fight.